All right, good evening, everybody, and welcome to our ninth episode of Topdeck Radio, the Hex podcast slash talk show. I'm your host, Thrawn, slash one half of the hosting equation, joined as always by my partner in crime, Manifesto. And this week we have an extra special guest, Blackwood. So, uh, whoever wants to say hi first, how's it going?
Hello. I am very thrilled to have the Christmas Yeti with us tonight.
It's great to be here.
Yes, he's not the ghost of Christmas past. He's the Yeti of Siege present. That's my horrible attempt at a joke there. We'll just let that one land like a lead balloon.
We have a bunch of bad jokes tonight. I can already feel it.
We do. This is
If
good.
Pappy can manage to fly, then our jokes will fly.
There you go.
See? It's not going to be a good night.
It's open mic night
right.
at the comedy club for all the dinglers in the club.
Is this thing on? Hello?
Hello,
Hello?
hello.
Well, let's just jump right onto it. Let's get the what we can out of the way here with our Hex Friday news, or last Friday's news, I suppose. Just dive right onto that, and then we can open up for our bigger, broader, better topics.
Yes. So
Let me know when you're ready.
let's see what happens when I click this button. Just need to make sure nothing bad in terms of like codes or something shows up on my screen. Nope, we should be good. So I have. Yeah, if all of the hex codes I have showed up on screen, that'd be a bad moment. But I got up here the bit of community news you posted. If you want to talk about the Immortal Tears by Prismatic tournament,
Oh, we're starting there. Okay, community news first then.
let's do it.
Community
that way.
news. We got one. We got one piece of community news. The Immortal Tears tournament is going to be coming back on July 6th. The Immortal Tears tournament is a immortal. Not Q. It's an immortal tournament. The word that goes in between there, whatever. Fill it in with your brain holes.
Double elimination tournament is what it says here.
Yes. I didn't have anything to do with it because I was too busy with other stuff, but Prismatic Conclave is a, unofficial Hex Guild clan group team, whatever we call them, since we don't have them inside of Hex yet, we've made our own outside of Hex. There's numerous of them, and one is the Prismatic Conclave. I'm a part of it, though I am not a part of putting this tournament together. Most of it back legwork is done by Hell Crescent. He wanted to put on a immortal format tournament, and he did. I will post the link up in chat for those listening, or for those watching. For those listening, you can go onto the official Hex TCG forums and probably just search in the search bar Immortal Tears. If not, scroll. It's probably not too far down yet.
It's in community/competitions and events is the forum path that you need to take to find it.
There you go. Community. What was that again?
Community and then competitions and events.
There you go. Community, competitions, and events. And then you will find the Immortal Tiers. It'll give you all the information on how to sign up and what the prizes are and the rewards and all that good stuff. So that's a shout out there. That's really all the community news that was brought to my attention this week.
Yep. I'm not going to read through all of the rules here because there's several, and so you can just see off of the thread. But the short version is double elimination immortal tournament, 400 platinum entry fee, and then of course there's going to be prizes. Prizes will be listed in that thread. So if you're needing more immortal and you want something that has a little bit more of a tournament flavor to it versus just the on-demand immortal gauntlet queue, this is definitely worth your time to check out.
Yes. I believe there's been two. There's been one or two. I know one went. I think the second one may have not had enough people to fire. Apparently, a lot of Euro. I know he ran 2 times the first time in time zone. A ton of people enter. Don't know if that had something to do with something else besides that Euro time zone players just love Immortal a lot more than America time zone players, but there was. I think they'll still be. I didn't look this time to see if there was 1 or 2 times being run, but I don't know. You'll have to find out for yourself.
Yep. And then on official news, I've got the Friday update up here.
Ooh.
So this was.
You want me to hit that too?
I can cover this one. We have questmas. We have another seasonal event up here, starting today. As in, this is live now. It actually started last Friday, I think. Log into the client to earn the Questmas 2018 sleeve, pictured here, and dive into some games to nab the exclusive Runic Riddle alternate art. And that is, I think, just a tournament participation award. So simply plan something and you'll get one when it's over. I really like the art on this with like the Sphinx and the child versions, like the kids of all the different ardent races. I think that's really the card itself. Not the greatest effect, especially for the cost, but the art is stellar. And then
I particularly love the art for the sleeves.
Yeah,
and the Llama Emu.
Yeah. Llama Emu, new PvE constant, 4 cost, single diamond threshold. When an opposing troop enters play, summon a llama, and 1 shot, pay 1, revert and transform target troop into an Arctic emu. And then this is interesting. One of the equipments gives it instead 3 shot. So that sounds like there's some new tech in there to put, expand upon 1 shot powers and give those more usability. And then the other piece of equipment is Llama Emu. You have deploy, randomly transform each troop into one of the following: a llama or an Arctic emu. So just
I've already farmed out my whole set of cards plus equipment, and I already have Coach working on a PvE deck for it. So my job is done. I will just wait and see what he comes up with, and then play it.
He'll have the Llama Emu like siege deck from hell that nobody can ever defeat.
I don't know. I know he was talking about using the gloves for the mass revert with one of the troops that, like, every time a troop revert, this gets, or transform, this gets +2/+2 or something like that. I don't know. I don't think he was talking about, sorry, I'm addressing chat, that he was talking that there's never been a card with more than a 1 shot. It's the fact that there's a equipment that changes the 1 shot to a 3 shot. Not that
and
3 shots don't exist.
They call it 3 shot. Like Rancor points out, there's the cat with 9 lives, but it doesn't say 9 shot on it, and that could just be a templating thing. So you're correct, I guess, that the tech probably is already there. It's just I don't recall it being presented in exactly this format before. But that, and we've seen Merry Melee has now circled back around, and we have Cornith versus Cornith again.
Yay!
Which I think is my favorite of the formats, honestly.
It's probably up there. Yeah, after playing all of them, it's actually somehow not as RNG as some of the other ones have actually become. So, unfortunately, it's the only one I already have the sleeves for as well, so we'll see how many gauntlets I actually end up playing.
True. At this point, like, I would love to play more Cornith versus Cornith, but I'm almost nervous to put my dollar down on the counter, because then if I queue and nobody's there, in the few times this week I would have open to being able to play Hex, then I'd be really sad. I'd be really sad.
I mean, I'm pretty sure you'll find someone. I don't feel like you won't. Look, if you put your dollar down and can't find anyone, you just call me and I'll put my dollar down and let you win 5 in a row so you can get your. Unless you just want to play, and I'll just actually play. But then I'll concede at the end so you can get your sleeves.
I already have my sleeves. I would just want to play because I legitimately enjoy that format.
well then we can play.
There you go. Probably not tonight.
I'll be there.
Not
tonight.
I'll let you know. But then
and then
we
what?
can skip
Yeah,
VIP. That's already
Oh, yeah, that's passed.
over.
Hope someone played the VIP tournaments, and the bashes are over, and people did well, and some people didn't do so well. I did terribly. I did the worst. I actually almost came in very last place in the very first bash on Saturday. I feel real bad. Did not play well at all.
I have trouble believing that not a single VIP fired when they only take 4 people to fire, but I suppose it is entirely possible they couldn't even get 4 people.
Yeah, I didn't catch the other ones, but the first one for the day only had 2 attendees.
Ugh.
Let me see. Is that on PvP tools? It is, right?
I think I saw somebody earlier in the Warden's Discord saying that for some reason VIP hadn't populated on the tools today.
Saturday, according to this can't be right. Saturday, 2017. Yeah, okay. He must have just stopped because according to Hex PvP tools, the last VIP went off on October 28th, 2017. So
That's weird.
hopefully that's not true.
No, I've played
I
one.
can't imagine it being true.
That is 100% not true because I've played one since then, but that doesn't mean anything about this month. It's,
Yeah. I guess you can stop tracking them.
They need to throw this VIP format away. It just needs to go away, because the Bash and the Clash are so much better prize value on net that it's the I don't know
the
that.
bad part is if the VIP tournaments don't even fire, then there's really have the current VIP iteration as is, because that's the only thing that's worth getting, really.
Right.
I mean, besides your 1 free pack a week, you have your VIP. If you pay for VIP but can't even get the VIP AA cards because you can't get into the tournaments, then what's the point?
Yep. Replay saying July is the VIP sleeve changing time. Seems like a perfect time to update the VIP. I don't know if they've even said anything about that. Last time I watched a dev stream, they were acting as if, I know they live in a perpetual, we're not going to talk about anything and we'll announce it when we announce it. But the way they said it that particular time led me to believe that they weren't even working on something, that there wasn't nothing they could talk about. They just weren't even thinking about it as far as VIP goes.
It's probably not very high on. I mean, even though it's the thing, it's of all the things, it's probably not ranking very high on their radar.
All right, I don't know, if you want a way to get some easy recurring income, I think that make that program good, and and you'll have it. To answer Ranter's question, what was the idea behind the VIP in the first place anyway? It was a way to get kind of consistent boosters at a very modest discount, because you're getting 1 a week but for close to the price of a regular booster. But the VIP tournaments were the draw. That at the moment the VIP tournaments were started, for that time the prize output was pretty good, and you had the AA cards as an exclusive thing that you could only get through winning VIP tournaments. That was the incentive. But then they did the Bash and the Clash, where more people wanted to play in that for a chance at cash prizes, and then they changed that, with the plat payouts, but the pricing is still so much better than what the VIP tournaments are. And instead of trying to get into an arms race against themselves, with the VIP tournaments scaling to match the Bash or the Clash or something, it's just kind of languished there.
Yeah. They definitely shouldn't be on the weekends, and definitely not the same time as the Bashes and Clashes, because there's just so much more value out of those. Not even a choice, really.
Yeah, but that's kind of it for news, official and community wise.
Yep.
We throw the spotlight over to our guest of the evening.
We get to make it up for those of you who joined recently. We are being guested tonight by Blackwood, one of the newer Hex streamers and not newer community members, but he is doing something pretty cool in the community. Some of you may have heard, some of you may not have heard of it, but I will let him tell you what it is.
So basically, with Siege, I've been doing something that I've been running on the forums, which is Pappy Jasper's Prize Patrol in puzzle badges. Back when Siege was first revealed, before we really had a total picture of what we were going to be working with, I had it in my head that I wanted to try and make some kind of fun theme setups for people to take a crack at. And when Siege first dropped, the original release on it, I put a couple straightforward decks to try it. And my favorite of those was one that I just called Yeti Regretti, which is just all of the different Yeti cards in Hex. And the biggest surprise from that was from Pappy Jasper, which for anybody who's not familiar with it, it's a Yeti that with equipment flies around and distributes presents every round, which are 0 cost to deploy artifacts. You spend 2, and you get a random card of a troop or an artifact from the entire arsenal of Hex's card library. And when I was watching the replays of people when Siege first came out, it was really fun to see people opening up the presents, especially PS4 players and people who really had no way of actually accessing those cards otherwise in their collections. But admittedly, the initial release of Siege kind of fell flat for me when it first came out. After a couple of days of postings and mostly just paying out kind of pointlessly, I didn't touch it again originally until more recently when the Siege Sack update came around. And with the kind of swing of things, decided to take another crack at it and go for something a little bit more thematic. The kind of setup with Siege now, sort of in my opinion, is a little bit antithesis for the kind of for fun environment since you've got currency on the line. But I'll catch that in saying that I can totally recognize that there's a contingent of the player base, like Coach Flipperon. We have a lot of fun designing very durable, tough defenses or kind of working around what we'll charitably call the AI's nuances. But at least personally, I think that it's kind of a missed opportunity for a content development kind of pressure release, because I could very easily see Siege with even modest modifications providing a channel for effectively limitless player-generated content. But anyways, as far as Pappy, the core is pretty simple and straightforward. I wanted to incentivize players interacting with Pappy's presence and seeing what kinds of crazy things they might get on the board to play with. And putting restrictions on preventing Pappy from making that happen was kind of the most direct step. So kind of the basis of the challenge is that you're looking for the AI to play Pappy Jasper, and once he's on the board, you don't void him, you don't kill him, and you don't transform him. But other than that, you're trying to open a present. Whatever the first present you open, as long as you satisfy those conditions, I'll send it to you along with a prize pool, which is 4 Spectral Acorn Extended Arts, putting out a chest, a mercenary, and a booster pack. And from there, kind of expanded it out to the puzzle badge challenges and everything as well. The Pappy one is actually surprisingly tricky with the board state because you're trying to avoid taking lethal from the furball without killing him, but then you've also eventually got to get lethal past him sooner or later too, and the AI starts using him as a blocker and so on, as people might be familiar with AI. But with the puzzle badges, that's kind of extending that out to other decks in what are hopefully fun ways, and kind of the idea behind that is prompting different play behavior or deck building prompts to see if I can give an interesting lateral challenge and give the AI an opportunity to actually get up and running with what are often less than amazing decks in a competitive sense, but usually trying to follow like a silly theme or a gimmick, or sometimes just a little bit indulgent play on words with those things.
And I'm forgetting if this link was in the thread itself, so I'm going to post this here as well. I bookmarked your puzzle badges spreadsheet, so I just dropped that link in chat for anybody who's interested. Last week on Dungeon Masters of Entrath, I built a deck and made an attempt at getting one of those puzzle badges, and it did not work out for me. I got pretty wrecked, but I love the thought that you've put into these for just trying to inspire people to build decks in a different way and use cards in manners of which they might not have before. That's kind of the same sentiment I had behind why I made Dungeon Masters of Entrath in the first place. So when you're looking at these different puzzle badges, and you know what, I'm going to switch over to the internet view so that this can be shown on screen as well. What was your thought process and how you come up with these different challenges and the decks to go along with them on your end?
Well, it was kind of both ways because I wanted to try and give people a reason to play something besides whatever their go-to, beat a siege defense deck and walk home with some siege stacks. So I tried to do an even mix with the badges where there'd be at least one that was relatively easy to get as long as you were actively trying to follow whatever it was, and then some that were a little bit more difficult where you might need to tweak a deck to be able to take them on, or even make your own kind of theme deck for them. So like some of them will call for a deck that only has a certain kind of troop in it. And there's one of my favorite badges is for the Rogues Gallery, which was Cloak and Dagger Defense System, which is you need to defeat it with a deck containing only resources and non-troop artifacts, which led to some pretty interesting replays. I think that I'm up to 40 badges altogether that people can earn, and there's a couple Hex players who've been pretty active about chasing after them. But I've tried to make it so that even if somebody's not the strongest player or doesn't have a really big collection, that they would still have a shot at getting some of the things. And I've set it up so that for every 3 badges somebody collects, I'll send them a booster pack. And if I see players who are really struggling through the siege event slog and they're out a lot of gold getting into it, I've usually been sending out kind of discretionary prizes for, here's gold back for your cost, here's some things that are just kind of, at least for making an honest effort at it, that sort of thing.
Jeez, Wolzarg has 40 badges.
Wolzarg has been a beast.
How many are there? Did you say there were? Does he have all of them?
Yes, he currently has every challenge that's available.
That's amazing. For starters, I have to admit I haven't seen. I've known about the Pappy Jasper, the siege defense challenge, but I've not actually seen the prize patrol spreadsheet because time, life, things. But God, I wish there was a way we could put this into the game. Like I would love like the badge system, like next to your name or next to like having it just separate like status sheet like for your character, and one day hopefully for your keep, where you could like have these badges on a wall or just even if it was just on a sheet. This is such a cool idea.
Yeah, this
and it kind of in a way it's kind of a what would you like to see most sort of thing in the game. So it's kind of a workshopping of I would really like to have something like this, like you were saying, where it would be cool to be able to have little badges for even stuff not related to siege, but like just certain accomplishments in the campaign or in a tournament or whatever it is. Because I don't know, a lot of people are real into getting achievements for games, things like that. I was a real hound for that back in the day on Xbox and all of that. And I wanted to try and bring something kind of like that to this experience, even if there's not something in client for it.
You are speaking my language. I would play so much more Hex if there was an in-game achievement system. I'm trying to look up what my gamer score is right now. I think I'm in the neighborhood of 350,000.
Good gracious.
Yeah.
If you go to the player profiles tab, that's where I tried to have kind of the real visual representation of that for people, which admittedly is really hard to manage in a Google spreadsheet, but I've done my best to try and make it look pretty presentable. And
It's very presentable.
He has kind of a general's badge going on where he has so much attached at this point. It's kind of nuts.
Yeah, I just saw the player profile tab now. I'm scrolling through it. Like that's like I feel like that'd be something so easily implementable into the Hex or into. I mean, it's easily implementable to anything. But this is so super cool, and I understand what you mean by like the Excel spreadsheet limiting you. But I mean, even if you even just these cool little badges that are just circles around Hex art that you've just put into each category, it still looks like. I mean, there's a huge difference. Like if these were individual openings, like if I had to go like right click Wolzarg's name and open like achievement, like seeing all these badges and then scrolling down and seeing like Xylos too, like the visualization gives it a weight. Like Wolzarg did a ton of work. Like he's got so many badges. It's ridiculous. And I see
yeah, look at that.
The badges on the left, I guess, are for getting like the full, like getting each, like if you complete all 4 asks, or
Right, the whole set.
then you
So,
get the big one.
achievements are kind of milestones at the moment. So puzzle badger, powerful puzzler, and so on are each doubling of how many badges somebody's completed. Wolzarg has actually outpaced me on that.
Oh.
Jingle Bell Rock is for defeating the Pipey Challenge with a rock deck. So trying to kind of do some more kind of overarching achievements as well, in addition to the badges. One of the challenges so far has just been trying to figure out a really good way to handle the actual prize distribution. So like I keep a listing of what the current prize pool is in the thread, and a lot of Hex players have been really generous for sending all kinds of little knickknacks to put into that pool as well. And I've been trying to keep as good of track as I can of who's contributed things to give them credit. And it's tough with this sort of thing because you'll get somebody who wants to do the challenge for the fun of it and then not really have any idea for if they actually want one of the mercenaries or care about some of the equipment and that kind of thing.
Mhm.
Right.
So trying to figure out a good way to distribute those has been something that's big on the to-do list.
I was just looking at your under the presents tab too. You've given some good cards away. Like, this isn't just a bunch of commons and uncommons. There's some alternate art. Angel of Dawn. Like, there's some actual chase stuff here. So,
I mean, to be fair, it is any card in Hex, so a lot of people will get jank from it. But
Mhm.
I mean, I've legitimately sent it out if somebody got something good from it, and somebody was really excited when they managed to get an Angel of Dawn out of a present.
so what
Nice.
are these? Just what you? So you just roll a chest and you give out what? How is this? How are the presents determined?
So the presents are the first actual present that they opened in the game that Pappy gave them. So whatever card Hex gives them, I'll send them from my collection, and if I don't have it, I'll try and try.
That's pretty amazing. So while you're playing, so once you challenge Pappy Jasper and you're playing it, you know what's on the line as soon as you open that first present.
Yeah. And
I mean, that's
again, sometimes that's not going to be something great, but also sometimes it's something pretty.
but at the same time, like, it's one of those things where it's like can't think of any other games that do it off the top of my head, but they're like, you see your incentive immediately, so you have a bigger drive to win that match, and and even more of a hurt when you lose it, because it's like you were so close to obtaining that, but you just didn't, and it just gives you a drive to try again.
I remember one very memorable assault on Blackwood Siege and the Pappy Jasper challenge, where I thought I broke the AI with how many presents were coming out. Do you remember that replay? And Blackwood, and how many?
I
How
wish
many?
I had a way to export it at the time because it was hilarious.
I think the game was generating like 20 or more presents every turn, and the AI just keeps cracking them, and then the game is slowing to a crawl because all of this insane stuff is happening, and I'm like out of my mind about how am I supposed to deal with it. But yeah, man, if you so you said you didn't at the time, do you now have a way to capture those games? Are you like exporting any replays to like YouTube or anybody where else where people could look at some of the shenanigans that are happening?
A big limitation is just available free time. I've been trying to make a point of whenever there's somebody new who goes through a challenge or somebody who gets a particularly fun challenge where I'm recording the match and the replay and saving off a video on the side. I haven't updated more than one of them to YouTube yet, but I do have a small pool of those available. It's just kind of a question of how interesting it really is to watch them as a YouTube replay, because I don't really have the time to put commentary on them. But I have been trying to do that as an alternative for it. And if they somehow release something where you can actually have a managed archive of your replays, that would be great. And that would really facilitate something like that. And obviously that would have its applications for PvP play as well as just sieges.
I don't know if just putting it to YouTube would be a good end all, but I know if you export it to YouTube and then embed it into, you could have a forum post off of your forum for like a something along the lines of like a Halls of Champion or like a just a highlight reel forum where you could embed the videos there so people could see it from your giant forum power that you're eventually going to create because of this.
The greatest hits collection, if you will.
I agree with you. I don't think someone's going to go to YouTube just to watch them, but I think if they're on the posts, and you have a link to best Happy Jasper moments, and then that takes you to just posts of embedded YouTube videos. I feel like that would get you some traction. But that's just me. What do I know?
No, I think that's a great idea. It's just kind of figuring out how to really move forward with it.
Oh yeah.
The whole thing now
Trust-
is that, they've had, I think, 35 players, unique players that have engaged with it. And some people have obviously come back a bunch of times, like Wolzarg. But it has slowed down a bit from when the Siege update first came out. So that's one of the reasons why I've been trying to put out the word for it, that I am still maintaining it and putting it up. So anybody who hasn't had a chance to do it, you're certainly welcome to. Anybody who has, you're welcome to come back and try the puzzle badges. That's what they're for.
That's what we're here for, to shine lights on great community members like you.
The puzzle badges, I don't know if this was unique to the time I challenged you, but that time the puzzle encounter was the first one in the trio of decks. Is that always the case, where whatever encounter has puzzle badges up is going to be the first deck people run into? Or could they also be buried, two as the second or third deck?
So Pappy's deck has 4 challenges on its own that people can go after, and the first 2 decks both have challenges. And the way that I've structured it is that the middle tier deck, the second slot, is a series of decks that are a little bit more robust than the ones in the first slot. The challenges tend to be a little bit tougher, and they're kind of meant to be like a mini boss sort of thing before you go to Pappy. But you can complete first or second or third or multiple in a given run. You don't have to finish the full siege to get credit for a badge. As long as you complete the match that it was in and fulfill its conditions, you're good. The biggest thing is just to make sure that somebody sends me in-game mail so I know to check it out. Because as much as I would like to watch every replay on the siege, and I try to as much as I can, it is a lot of time to go through and do that. And I try to just stick to watching the matches where somebody's going after a challenge so we can check it out and see it. And if it's a good one, I'll try and record it too.
Yeah.
It's awesome, man.
So definitely, if you have not yet checked it out, take a look at the forum thread. Look at all the awesomeness in Pappy's Prize Patrol. I love everything about this. I think you've put more effort into this than I have into Dungeon Masters Adventure the last few weeks, if I'm being brutally honest about it. I've been kind of lazy, and you're kicking ass here with this idea. So much kudos to you.
Well, I think you've done some really awesome business with Dungeon Master as well, and that was definitely one of my big inspirations for wanting to do something like this. So my hat's off to you.
Oh gosh, Thrawn's gonna cry.
So before we get into any other topics tonight, I was noticing in chat, and I didn't want to derail our discussion of Blackwood's sieges, but we have a Cravenmore 75 in chat here saying new player to Hex, and asking as a general chat question and something that I think we're all qualified to talk about, any advice for newer players?
I missed if he actually said if he was on PC or not, but if he is, I already typed it in there, but definitely playing through the campaign at least once, even if it's not really your jam, it's still the best way to get comfortable with Hex. As far as, I don't think if you play through the whole campaign, you will, nothing in PvP will surprise you. You'll have seen every mechanic, you'll have gotten a pretty good grasp on the wording of how cards are worded, and even if you've come from another TCG background, it's just a good way to, it's just a good appetizer course, and then you may even find out that you really love PvE, and that's just your jam, and maybe you never go into PvP, or maybe you find a nice balance between both. But it's definitely the most fun way to learn the game. I mean, you can obviously find people like Replay and me and other people to either watch and or play with and learn the game that way, but I still tell everyone that tries the game for the first time, if they're able to play PvE, they should, because it's there, and it's a perfect tool.
And I will say that one of the things that is really nice with the Hex community is there are a lot of very patient and generous players who will help somebody out if they're new to the genre altogether, or if they're a veteran of TCGs but just want to get a kind of leg up in getting started in Hex. I mean, there are people that have been playing for the full 5 years at this point who are happy to answer questions and help you out.
Yep. And
Plenty of us with huge pools of cards that are more than willing to part with commons and uncommons
I was
to get
just
some rock decks together for you.
gonna say the same. Depending on your budget, look at TCG Browser. If you haven't been to that site before, that is a very extremely helpful library of what all the cards are in Hex that you can browse at your leisure. Sorry, for some reason the link's not working in chat here, but if you Google it, I think you'll find it. Do some research on what cards are out there, just either in client or at TCG Browser, and kind of figure out what at least commons and uncommons you'd want in any decks you're considering running. And oftentimes, as long as you're not annoying about it, if you just politely ask some folks, hey, I'm looking for this common or this uncommon, does anybody have spares? People will probably hook you up. I have a lot of extra commons with Evo. The commons and uncommon extra supplies that come with Evo tournaments. A lot of people are gonna have some spares to be able to hook you up with, and Evo Sealed is kind of a good way to get your foot in the door on limited, if that appeals to you at all, because there's no time limit on how long you can study the cards to put a deck together. You're only going to have 2 rares out the gate, so the power level of Evo decks tends to be lower. So games tend to run longer, so you're not going to usually get blown out the door real quick in Evo. So it's kind of a good way to learn more of the cards and just kind of start feeling out competitive environments.
I'd also say that there's an events calendar that you can see in the client and on the forums as well. Every week they run stuff just about every night, and one of the things that they have is Fight Night, which is a rock format, so just commons and uncommons. It's gold instead of plat to enter. It's a Swiss environment. It's kind of a nice way to get your feet wet if you want to try a little bit of a slightly competitive event and potentially get some prizes out of it.
All good ideas.
I will say too, if gold matters to you, or even if it doesn't, I have made a ton of gold doing this. I'm going to spill my secret. Fight Night has a 3,000 gold entry fee. If you win twice, you get a booster. If you win 3 times, you get 2 boosters. Am I right on the payout? I think I'm right on the payout. What I have usually done is immediately turn around and flip those boosters on the auction house to sell them for gold. And turned my 3,000 gold entry fee into like a 30 to 33,000 or so gold sale on a booster pack easily. So, if you go 2-1 in a Fight Night, you can get 10 times your entry fee. And then there's another community resource called BankerBot where you can send them the gold and have that converted into plat. And so if you're a completely free-to-play player, that's a nice way to get your foot in the door on turning free currency into a slow trickle of actual platinum towards buying boosters or, your rares or your legendaries. So I definitely recommend the Fight Night. And I even enjoy that as just low stakes constructed. I'll still play Fight Night from time to time, when I'm around, even though I have almost all the cards. Thank you, Replay, for the bank.
There you go.
Link.
Now that we've nickel-socked this guy in the face with all the different things you can do.
Here, you can have this and this and this. But if you have any other questions or specific things you want to know more on to help direct our advice, we're happy to answer that stuff. But our primary, just general everybody topic for the night was talking about lore in Hex and Hex's mythology and universe in general. And looking at the show notes here, how did you want to start that conversation? Because there's a few different things that we could talk about.
I feel like, I just threw a bunch of questions out there. I kind of tried to make them, they would make sense in order as far as like Hex's timeline. So if you want to start with the second part after the questions, but also
We can just start from the top.
start from the top.
So yeah, in terms of stories within Hex, what's your favorite arc so far?
Are we gonna start with me? I'll start. I'll start this one. So yeah, my favorite story arc so far has definitely been, and it's recent. It took me a while. I thought about this one. I thought it was gonna be something from an older set, but really my favorite story arc so far in Hex hasn't really come to fruition yet, I would say. I think we're gonna see a lot more of this in the next set. But the moment when Levanth got killed, and the librarian and the nameless cult saw an opening to turn part of the name,
Luminaries?
yes, the luminaries, thank you, into Sisters of Suffering, has been my favorite little bit of story lore arc so far, and I can't wait to see where they go with that. I wish I had more, because I wish I knew how that played out, but I realized that was my favorite because it was a very sneaky little, almost under the radar thing that the librarian and the cult did while this much bigger Ender story was happening. So that's it. That's my little nugget of love right now in the Hex lore.
How about you,
And
Blackwood?
it's funny that Strongboar said that because that's exactly the other half of the conversation.
Well, clearly there's the epic saga of the Nanomancer, who has had some trials and tribulations recently, and is rumored to be in a bad way with the fatal fuel that was pumped his way. But apart from that, I actually really did like the kickoff with the whole arena arc. I really enjoyed, in particular, when they showed all the teams that didn't make the cut, that were kind of featured in the arc, getting kind of beat up in a variety of unpleasant but funny ways. I think that I really like what they've done just in general with the Gnolls. I think it's a really fun faction. I think that the kind of combination of the whole Gatorade and gladiatorial arena thing really works well. I'm a little bit down on the Enders entering because I kind of feel like the floating balls of death have come in and kind of ruined the fun of what was going on in the arena, so to speak. But I'm interested to see where they go with that. Hopefully we get a fun conclusion. But I'm putting all of my chips on the table that the Nanomancer is going to be the one who actually wins the tournament, and that Hogarth was doing a double blind, and there actually is a prize for him. And it will probably be the biggest appeal that he'll have in his split with his banana.
That's actually
Wow.
that's how the Frostheart saga is going to end. Pappy Jasper will swoop into the Frostring arena. The Nanomancer will hop into the sleigh with him, and the two of them will go through the gigantic portals to the other dimension that the Enders have been spilling out of, and find a way to make them all go back.
And this is a set 10 spoiler. They're going to introduce the 6th shard, which is banana yellow. So look forward to that in the new Prismatic.
But there won't be any ducks.
There's only one card, and it's just Nanomancer.
Every card
Once
in
you've
the set.
played X number of bananas, you win the game.
There you go. Besides spectral acorns, we'll have spectral bananas. We'll find something to do with them.
Oh, that would be like the Twilight Zone ending for him. There would be bananas that he couldn't.
Fake nanas.
So this might be an unpopular opinion, but if we're talking about favorite story arcs, I think it has to be the Frostheart saga because it's the only story arc in Hex. That's the part I think people may disagree with me on, but I think the first couple sets are just establishing what the races are. And then you've got Hero Fall and Scars of War, where it's like, ooh, we're at war, but we're not going to really tell you any meaningful stories about the war or really explain much about the characters. And then Frostheart came out, and they actually started endeavoring to attempt to tell a story. So I feel like we're experiencing now the first true attempt in Hex's lifespan at telling an overarching story.
Well, I used the term story arc, but I really meant like any real story
moment.
that's been told via hex cards. Like, I would have considered like Prince, what's his face, being killed and then turned into Prince Zakir or whatever his name is. That would be like a small story arc in the overall arcing story of Hex.
That's kind of my complaint with that beat in particular is a really good example of it. Is it's like we have these dramatic character deaths earlier on. It's like, well, it kind of feels a little bit unearned because there hasn't really been anything of significant substance for these characters to establish it. Like there was certainly a lot more when you had like the Livanth demise, or arguably when you had like with what went on with Puck and Balthazar and all that, which is a little bit more because there's some more presence of those characters and I guess you could say relatability tenuously. But like the Prince, it's like, okay, you saw him on one card and maybe he was mentioned on 2 others and now he's dead. It's like, okay,
who
now
cares?
what?
Yeah, he was just like an understanding knowing that he was a leader figure. I guess a lot of my love for the beginning of the set lore, because it was dangerously similar but yet enough different from like World of Warcraft lore that I got it and I understood it, and I knew which characters were going to be important and which characters were probably not going to make it. But because it's basically the same story. I mean, Underworld Ardent, 2 rivalry factions, each one has a handful of obvious leaders per race. So I got it. They didn't have to have a whole bunch of story behind it for me to realize which characters I was supposed to like and which ones I was supposed to not like and which ones were very important. Yes.
Right.
But since we've all kind of said the same thing already, maybe we should jump down to the second blurb
I
here, Thrawn, before we...
I could say one of if you're talking specific story beats, I have enjoyed seeing Lixil get more and more powerful and more badass as time goes on. But then it was a little disappointing that she's achieving like max level badassery, and then we have Doombringer where she's basically like off the board now because she fell into a portal to another dimension or something, and instead we have these murder balls. Like they derailed an already escalating craziness of this battle for other crazy things that have no lore precedent and just feel like a Deus Ex Machina. So it's going to be interesting to see if... I have to assume Lixil's probably going to make some triumphant return in this set, and then we'll see if that
Maybe
plays
she
into
finds
the Enders going away.
In where she is.
I personally think it would have been more interesting if they just leaned into the verdict and the kind of judgment side of things, where suddenly the contestants had to face kind of a greater extent what Hogarth was dealing with, because the Enders are just like so kind of out of nowhere that it's hard to feel a lot of interest in them, at least personally.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you guys. I don't love the Enders eruption into the thing. I would have much rather just seen the Frostring Arena story play out. But I mean, that's what we have, so kind of gotta go with that, I suppose.
So,
but they do seem... I thought, I mean, at least they haven't yet. Who knows what's set 10 and what's 11? But I guess we're going to hit that in a second, so I won't talk about that right now. Next question, Thrawn.
Is this the one
you want to jump down?
Do you want to talk about...
Yeah, let's jump down.
How can Hex develop... How can Hex best develop their lore and continue to build their world? And related to that, what more can Hex do to make their universe a distinct and memorable fantasy universe, considering that there's a sea of generic fantasy universes out there? How can Hex set themselves further apart in any memorable way?
For starters, I'm going to go with that I know that this is never going to happen. Before I read chat, they're never going to do this. I'm aware. It's definitely not happening anytime soon, but I feel like the best way to develop the lore would be... I lost the word. What are they called? Little TV shows in the game.
Cutscenes.
Cutscenes.
Cutscenes. Thank you. Jeez, cutscenes within either. I mean, I guess it would be really hard to do for the PvP. In the PvE, it'd be easier because you put cutscenes like when you're moving from node to node, when you're hitting like the big nodes that really move story forward, you could have a cutscene. In PvP, I guess it would be harder. Like it would all have to be done during spoiler season, I guess. Like when they're telling their, because they do like the lore articles during spoiler season, and really spoiler season when we learn the story, because once the cards are out, they're out. It's not like there's more story to be added to it. So I guess it have to be done during then for the PvP stories. I feel like seeing, and even maybe not even fully animated cutscenes, like, you know, there's some games, I think the one that comes to mind the most is Guild Wars does this a lot, is that they use still art and they just make the art kind of shift and move while telling a narrated story over top of it. I don't know if either of you've ever played Guild Wars or Guild Wars 2.
You can see actually an example of that if you look at their launch trailer for Adventure Zone 2 and the Glaciation and everything like that. They actually did that to an extent when they were going into the Kraken and all of that.
We need like a series of those to be released over time, and maybe even just release it throughout the entire set's lifetime, even though we already would know the story if we like read all of the little lore pieces on every single piece of card. But it would still be something they could release and something we could see to learn more about the whole way. So that's what I think would be the best way. Maybe not the most realistic way, but
I think that a very approachable and most importantly affordable approach would just to be have a dedicated day each week and have somebody post some kind of an article that is some kind of a continuation of story ongoing, whether that's a couple of paragraphs and some card art or whatever. And you could have that kind of bridge between set releases. You can have that bridge between events. And if they really want to try and kind of build into that, they could slowly tie that into things that are going in over time, like something similar to if you had the melee rotation that had like a little story beat attached to it, so that the people who are kind of queuing up for whatever it is that they have going on have some kind of tie-in with that. And similar kind of deal with the holiday events. You know, you have the pretty basic form template that we now see each time the, you know, I think it's 6 events per year that come out. It'd be nice if they had like a little story right up around how that is in the context of what's going on in Entrath and everything else at that time, if they really wanted to.
I feel like we had someone who wrote PvE or lore articles at one point in time.
They did for a little while, and they had a couple, I think Frostheart, like you were saying, where it really felt like it had the story arc. That was one of the first times that they really had that spin up to it. But, I mean, realistically speaking, writing a lore article is not very expensive, especially if you have somebody who's already on staff ostensibly for that kind of a role. But I mean, if you really need to or want to, I mean, put that out to the community, you know, do some kind of a build up so that you have some kind of a trickle feed of information coming out for that sort of thing. Because as it currently is, you're basically gathering everything from flavor text on cards and maybe an article if it comes out for a set.
You're literally taking the words out of my mouth. I was just going to say the easiest thing they could do is do weekly lore articles, like Lore Wednesday or something, because, you know, Tuesday they usually have your door prizes and Friday's your update. Every Wednesday, drop a lore article. You know, they've been the articles that we got for the last few sets, we've only had like 2 to 4 lore articles max, and none of them were longer than 1,000 words. I could crank out 1,000 words a week easily. I mean, not saying that it. Well, I could do this. I have a creative writing degree. Hex, if you want this, call me. Make it worth my while, and I'll write you 1,000 words a week of lore. But literally, just, you know, drop one story a week, and they could either be one shots, just miscellaneous, you know, little short fiction snapshots of what's going on. Or it could be serial fiction, you know, just your story broken up into weekly chunks, telling kind of a more complete tale of the overall theme of your set, you know, over the 4-month period, potentially leading into the next. I think that'd be a pretty inexpensive way to just kind of keep some momentum going on your story and give someone a reason to check the main site when it's not spoiler season. Because boy, we haven't had much reason to check the site the last few weeks, have we?
Yeah, and I mean, if you're really looking at the kind of bridged gap between sets, let's assume that it's actually like 2.5 months worth of weeks that they really need to have something coming out. Because all the other time you have spoiler season spin up where that's filling out a week pretty well and that sort of thing. But heck, even if you want to say, okay, twice a month, here's a 1,000-word profile on a unique card. Give us the story of Yazukan, or give us the story of Pappy Jasper, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, that kind of thing. Obviously, it's not something that a large contingent of the player base probably cares about, but it's something that doesn't take a tremendous amount of effort, isn't particularly expensive, and does throw a bone to the people that do actually want to get interested in that kind of thing. Because there needs to be more available than just going off of flavor text and some small dialogue boxes in the campaign if you really want to get people to have kind of a creative interest in what's going on in the world behind Hex.
Stromwar added us, make it so that in the campaign your choices actually matter. Entry. Also improve narration. I agree, narration, even possibly some voice acting in like the dungeons at least, could be another way of, what's it called, immersion into the lore as a player. As far as the like choose your adventure, I feel like though that could be cool, that's stretching a bit. Everyone would do something different, so that would mean each campaign would then have to be like, you'd have to set up a dynamic campaign system where every single person's campaign is their own personal campaign and saved separately, and Havoc just posted something in chat that everyone should pay attention to and try to steal it. And my client's closed, I can't even do it. But yeah, I feel like that's a little too much work for what you would get out of it. But
yeah, I mean, once you start getting into actual modifications to the mechanics of the structure of the campaign or siege or anything like that, it gets a little bit hairier because obviously there's a limited amount of resources available, limited amount of development time. I would personally say that kind of a long ball pitch would be to do something similar to, if you've seen in a lot of multiplayer games where they'll have kind of a ongoing faction presence for something, where it's not necessarily player versus player, but it could be, where you have, like, for example, here's Ardent versus Underworld, and when players queue up for whatever this thing is, whether it's taking campaign characters to a special region that has 24 encounter nodes that alternate or whatever, they can say, okay, I'm going to represent Underworld, or I'm going to represent this arena team, or whatever the case might be, and have the players that are kind of queuing up for those sides driving a narrative over an event for, let's say it lasts 4 months, the span of a set, and at the end of it, then that has some kind of lasting effect on something that gets determined in the next set. And that could be something that's as simple as some flavor text and maybe a card is slightly different or whatever, but it gives something where people can kind of pick and choose the things that they are interested in the lore, kind of drive it a little bit, and potentially that's something that's relatively low end for what's actually needing to be done on the mechanical side of things. Because, I mean, realistically, creating encounter nodes for something like that, or encounters for Frostring Arena, or whatever you want to represent it with, the underlying engine is already there. It's just the time to have somebody sit down and put decks together for it. Or if it is a PvP thing, just have some kind of queue for that. But I think that would be one potential approach that they could take, that sort of thing.
yeah, Blizzard's actually been very successful using in Heroes of the Storm recently. They've been running pretty much back-to-back events over the last couple months where when you log in, you choose a side of a faction, and each faction's dependent on whatever Blizzard game they're spotlighting that event, Ardent or Horde or whatever. And as you just play the game, you actually don't have to do anything special. Just as you play the game, the quests are a little different, and you get the same amount of stuff no matter which side you pick. But so in Hex terms, like, you pick Ardent or Underworld, and then you would play games and you have a quest like win 5 games on the ladder, or that would be like a PvP example. PvE example would be something like what you talked about, where you'd have like your own separate little node pool to play in. but you would just get like X number of wins. You got like an icon, like a new, you know, like in our chat we have like little heads of coyotes and stuff. You just get like a new little chat badge, and then like at another X wins or finishing even more the little campaign node section, you could get an alternate art card that is different depending on which side you chose. Like maybe chose Ardent, you have an Ardent team holding up a victory flag over a bunch of dead underworld troops, or vice versa.
You
And
can
then
rip those banners in the matchup screen.
exactly. So I mean, they just give it's basically they've just been doing very well using a choose your side, and you get more cosmetics, and your cosmetics are based off which side you chose at the beginning of this event. And the events, I think, for the Blizzard stuff's been lasting about a month, which is plenty of time to get the stuff that you, even for like, I mean, I boot up Here's the Storm like once a week if I'm lucky, maybe, and I still have gotten some cool stuff out of it. So it could definitely be something that be applied to a TCG fairly easily, since we all love our cosmetic things. We all love our alternate art cards and sleeves and stuff like that.
Sure, I'm the cynic who goes, that idea is awesome, and then immediately goes, how many seconds until somebody starts complaining because they can't get all the things?
I mean, that's
we know our players.
Yeah, but I mean, that's the thing. You choose your favorite side. I don't care. I mean, there's always going to be a choice. I mean, I think that's the cool part, is because, and that you're, sometimes you have to think of it as, I didn't get all this stuff, and then other times you have to think of it as, I got stuff that other people can't get. Like, your collection isn't any less valuable because you couldn't get everything. It's more valuable because you got something that someone else can't get anymore.
All right, we have no achievement system, so we have to try to socially differentiate ourselves any way we can, especially since there's no guilds or anything yet.
That's
All
kind
right.
of what I would like to see with something like the faction map or whatever the case might be, is have that be a stepping stone towards getting actual guilds into the system. Because we really have to have something for social features for any of that kind of stuff to work. And if you want to tie that into getting more lore out there or getting more world building out there, all the better.
Yeah. Talking lore, do you want to go back into lore topic questions, Manny?
Yeah. I think so. Oh, I mean, no one really touched on the second half of your question, I guess. Did you have thoughts on that?
What can Hex do?
I thought their fantasy universe is already pretty diverse. I mean, see where they drew, I mean, inspiration from very, you know, tropes that have been in many fantasy games. Like, I already touched on Horde and Alliance and the Ardent and Underworld, but like, I mean, there's some things that are just staple in games like this, like Dragon. Everyone loves dragons. You're playing a fantasy card game, you better have dragons in there. But like, no one's got enders, even though we already kind of said we wish they came in a different way. But the enders are pretty sweet. I mean, transdimensional balls of death. I don't know how you're gonna get much more unique than that.
I don't.
Kind of something Drazi.
Yeah, that I can see that as kind of the near parallel. I wouldn't hold up the enders as, hey, look at our gnarly murder balls as the cool thing that you're going to use to advertise the game, but I do think they did well with the Shin hair, you know, Japanese samurai murder bunnies, and the coyote, you know, drawing strong parallels to Native American mythology. I think those are probably the two best things Hex has going for it in terms of originality. Of course, you've got humans because you have to, but everybody's got elves and orcs, and you know those are just kind of your stock fantasy staples.
Them having the dwarves be stone demolitions frenzied people is pretty fun.
And we got half man, half spiders. Not too many of those running around the fantasy universe.
True.
I think the one thing that the Enders do bring is the fact that, yes, the Enders are one thing, but it makes the fact that there's multiple dimensions in Hex a thing, which basically means we can have a tear into dimensions at any point in time and bring in, I mean, you could go with the classic sitcom like dark universe where all the races of the underworld are actually the ardent, and the ardent like they're reversed.
Bizarre,
Just have evil
bizarre
versions
world.
of everybody. Like they basically open it up. If there's multiple dimensions, you can do almost whatever you want because your excuse can just be, oh, they came from another dimension.
Yeah, I don't know. I kind of wanted to throw the thought out there. I don't know that I had any specific ideas on what they should do.
Once Evolve Entrapped is explored, AZ-24 brings us to new dimensions. Yep, we start all over again with 1. Altered Dimension AZ-1.
And then all the adventure zones are upside down.
Where all the piranhas also have flying.
Yeah, it's prestige mode AZ1. All right, so lore question.
So, second question, Blackwood, you kind of already touched on your, but the question is, who would have most likely, or in your opinion, who would have most likely to have won the Frostring Arena before the Enders came in and ruined the fun? I believe you kind of said that you thought the Nanomancer was going to win.
Well, the Nanomancer is my fan favorite, but I think practical purposes, just going by ladder performance, Candles were doing a real bang-up job until Levant got taken out.
Strumworth says clearly Swamp Butt.
Obvious.
My headcanon theory is that the Merry Caravan would just completely fill the Frostring Arena with dream smoke. Everybody gets obscenely high, and the fighting just stops, and they all just eat chips and talk. And Hogarth gets pissed because there is no winner. They all just kind of give up and decide to chill and hang out.
Telling you though, Hogarth gets up there for his big grandstanding and slips on a banana peel. You can picture it pretty well.
My pick was also, if you had asked me before this set came out, I would have to have agreed with Candles. I feel like they were the strongest, they were working together the best. But after this set came out, it's Merry Caravan. Holy smokes. The little story with Brosi going off when he finds out that Puck died, I didn't think they were bringing that kind of heat to the arena. I mean, imagine if he went crazy Brosi Buck on the arena people. I feel like they would have been the victors. I think if the story had gone and they pushed Brosi to that point, or if Puck had died in fight in the arena, that would have been the end. I think he would have destroyed everyone, including the arena.
I kind of feel like the Merry Caravan's not actually there to win, though. I think they're there just to have a good time.
It's just the thing, like they would have to have the reason, like who just said it, Stromwar, Super Saiyan Brosi, like Puck is his Krillin, and once he falls in battle, it's done. There's no more fun time to be had. It's all smash things.
I understood that reference. Part of me wonders how much of Chad did. Hopefully a fair amount, because if you like Hex, you're probably a nerd enough to like Dragon Ball and other things.
Oh, yeah, you live and you learn.
Future.
That's my favorite question.
Future lore speculation. How will the Enders be defeated?
For reals, how do you really think that Hex is going to write in the defeat of the Enders? Will they be defeated? I'm not answering this one first.
Blackwood, how are the Enders going down? Okay,
Blackwood?
Do you two really have
probably
nothing?
Verdict, or Hogarth suddenly taking a face turn and self-sacrificing, learning from his ways of being a egotistical bastard, and getting rid of the Enders and cleaning up his mess after he slips in the banana peel and hits his head because the Nanomancer is the winner.
Yeah, it
Thrawn?
could be Lixel. I think it's gonna be something. I think it's gonna be dumb. I'm just prepared to be disappointed. Something like
If I had to do a serious guess, I'd probably agree with you. I think Lixel probably comes back from the dimension with something to deal with the Enders.
Strawmore says, I got an interesting theory in lunar resonance. It said Hex started acting up once the Enders started awakening. I think some sort of Hex defense will be activated, and we'll learn what Hex actually is. That would be interesting. I like that idea a lot more than my idea that
That's real deep.
that Lixel comes out and figures out how to in Star Trek terms reverse the polarity on the portals, and it's like some giant fantasy space vacuum just sucks all the Enders back into their dimension, and then poof, they're gone.
Three boys on my line. My solution and hope for set 10 is a reprint of all of the dragon, but not like just straight reprinted, like new ones, like it's the same names but they're different cards. They have different abilities, different keywords, different attack and toughness. That's my go-to. That all the dragons of Entrath have to come together.
Levanth comes back, isn't actually dead, has an eye patch, and is punished. Levanth.
I think it'd be really cool if one of the necro, like, maybe, I mean, I don't know if the Blightbarks have this power, but if they could somehow rise Levanth as well to fight with, but I mean, we still have what, 10, 11 other dragons? There's a lot of dragons now.
I like Palm's comment, or P4 LME. I never know how to say it. They will die to bacteria. It's gonna go it's gonna be the War of the Worlds ending,
where water kills them. Oh no, that's science.
Yeah, you're thinking different. Swing away. Some necrotic puts gems in Levanth, and it turns out dragons can become necrotic. That's Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
All right, this will not happen, but I almost can imagine the level 9,000 rage people would have. They take the fusion mechanic and they apply it to dragons, and you can keep fusing You can fuse all of the dragons into the super-powered godly chromatic dragon, and we get some kind of like gotcha, need to collect them all nonsense where you need 1,000 things to make one card. It won't happen.
Please
folks.
no.
It absolutely won't happen. But that'd be the height of ridiculousness.
You fuse two Baby Yetis together, and you get a really beefy, muscular Baby Yeti.
Build your own.
BYO con.
Yep.
I think we'll just get some revamped, like ultra, maybe like, because all the dragons, don't they siphon power off of the hex geode of their threshold color? Like, maybe the hex stones kind of infuse them with more power to the doom. That it kind of goes with what he said about the lunar resonance card. Like, hex senses that it's where it is being threatened, so it beefs up the dragons, which they've kind of created as their guardians of their hex geode nodes, to just like destroy them, just like Rex.
There are the Eternals to take into consideration too.
Yeah, there are also Eternals. I thought about that when I was thinking about the question, but I don't think there's enough Eternal lore to really bring them in full swing.
Well, that moves into your next question, though, because as I say, your follow-up question after Enders is, yes, what do you think or hope the next story arc will be in set 11? And that's where I'd love to see them start talking about the Enders.
Yeah, whenever this Ender story arc is over, I don't know what set's going to be. Eternals would be nice. It's not what I think will happen. It's more of a hope. I would love to have the Eternals more. I hope it doesn't go the way of. I feel like that they're going to want to come back to the Underworld and Ardent again after this whole Frost Rings / Enders story is over, which wouldn't be terrible. It's not a bad thing, but it's just I don't kind of want to fall into a routine where it's like Ardent Underworld story arc. Oh, let's check back up on the Ardent in the Underworld story arc. Check back into the Ardent Underworld. But I mean, it might be. I feel like like Neo said earlier, there's so much stuff they could do. Like we've only explored even like AZ1 and 2, like such a tiny bit of Hex or of Entrath. There's so much that they could just go off and do. We never have to come back to any of these other parts of the world and ever have to go over this lore again. But I feel like it would make sense to keep one main storyline going throughout the whole thing to tie everything together. And I guess that's what the Ardent and Underworld like faction war would be, just like what the Horde and Alliance does for WoW. Like no matter what they do, they always come back to that. So you always have people you like and people you align yourself with.
Yeah,
oh yeah, Sid's gonna come back too.
I'm really hoping they
here.
don't. I think Ardent versus Underworld is the most boring thing that Hex has going for it. Like, you've got this really interesting universe with lots of different ways you could go. Returning to Ardent versus Underworld is kind of the most boring, least creative, low effort thing you could do, and I think they're better than that. Especially with how good the art's gotten and how crazy they've been the last few sets. I don't think they're going back there. I think as other people have suggested in chat, with there being so many different like continents and regions of the world, I could see them taking it somewhere else. But I can also see them being married to some of their big characters like Lixil and wanting to find ways to contrive for those characters to appear in whatever their new setting is. So it would not surprise me at all if they try to have it both ways, where it's new setting but still several returning characters.
Blackwood, any thoughts?
I'm kind of torn on it because I agree that they're probably going to want to loop back around to the Arden and the Underworld and everything like that. I think it would be neat to see a return to those races, but not necessarily those factions. So if we do go to another continent or something, like kind of one of my nitpicks of any kind of fantasy setting or sci-fi setting is I hate it when it's like, you know, all of the humans are this faction and all of the elves are this faction and that kind of thing. So it would be cool to see other places in the world where there are other kind of groups that are, you know, some of these same races that we're familiar with, and it doesn't necessarily just have to be Arden and Underworld, but what they have formed together for new factions in other areas, and new groups and other things and other stories.
Douglas says ducks versus penguins.
Well, we're not talking. We know the next set palm is going to still be that multi-shard. We're talking about this now.
Yeah, we're talking about the set. We're talking much future, the set after the set that's coming. Yeah. Any other thoughts you want to drop on lore? Or do you want to swing into cards of the week? It's been going.
It's 9:20. We actually did pretty good on lore talk. We into cards of the week. That's fine with me.
Okay, and I don't have a what's that card prepared for this week. So what I'm going to do here is I've got 2 Evo codes that I'm going to be giving away. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to roll a number between 1 and 500, and everybody in chat gets to ask, or gets, yeah, Strom is like, damn it, because Strom has won a bunch. What you need to do here is I'm going to go to random.org. I'm hitting a number between 1 and 500. You get 1 guess in chat with what your number is, and the 2 closest people are going to get Evo codes. You can only guess once. Multiple guesses will disqualify you. All right, and so let me get my Hex client up.
All right, shards of the week. If you guys haven't been here before, is just a little fun bit of talk we do about a different type card, as in troop, constant action, and then a threshold attached to it. So one week we'll talk about wild troops, next week we'll talk about sapphire actions. We both pick 3 cards that we just love. These aren't ranked cards for best in the meta. These aren't the best of the best trophies. These are cards we love because of flavor text, because of art, because of we just played them every chance we ever had, or they just have really awesome mechanics on them that we like. So there's no wrong answers, and you guys can chime in on what yours are. This week we're actually doing 2 different types of cards because there's not a very large pool for this. But last week we did prismatic troops, and this week we'll be doing prismatic actions and constants. And we're knocking out these prismatic things now because hopefully, fingers crossed, we start getting some spoilers for set 10, and we already know that that's going to be another prismatic-based set. So these will probably be changing a lot in the next couple of weeks, and we'll be able to do these 2 categories again with the new cards. Mine up first? Am I going first?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right, my first card is Refuel, specifically the alternate art Refuel, because one of the big reasons I chose this card was the art on the alternate art Refuel. Refuel, for those listening, is a 3-cost, 1 blood, 1 ruby threshold. It's a basic action. It's an uncommon. It reads, put up to 2 target troops in your crypt with cost 3 or less into play. They get speed this turn, and at the end of the turn, sacrifice those troops. I'm not gonna lie, 80+% of the reason I chose this was because of the art. When I saw the alternate art refuel that you can get through cosmic coins, I fell in love. It's probably as close as some people in chat are going to get as for their waifu card, but it has Matriarch of Flame and Bride of the Damned kind of almost maybe twirling with each other, and the Matriarch is blowing out fire, and the Bride of the Damned has her snake tongue out, and they're kind of forging a new heart for something, I guess. Made of half fire, half purple, cool stuff. And I mean, you just look at it. Would you just look at it? I know, Strong War knows who I'm talking to. It's a gorgeous card, and it's also super playable in the current meta, so there's no reason to not love it. It also has a really sweet crypt play. So it's like a new temporary reanimator spell, and it's in the right shards to do that in. So win-win.
All right, so I'm just typing in chat here. No more guesses. That's my line. Everybody in chat before that is eligible. I'm going to pull up my first card, and then while you're talking about your second one, I will reveal who the winners are. There's one person who definitely won, and then I got to do the math to figure out who the second closest person was. So my first card for the week is Forever's Bloom, which is it is a 3-cost constant from Hero Fall, single diamond, single wild threshold. At the start of your turn, add a strength counter to this. Then up to 1 target troop you control gets +1/+1 for each strength counter on this. I love this constant because it plays directly into my play style. I love big smashy troops, and this is a constant that lets your troops keep getting bigger and smashier every single turn. I also love the art on this. It's kind of got, the character looks like a young peasant girl, not super like upper class or rich seeming or anything. And she's just kind of dancing around in a really nice field of flowers. And then over her back, she's lugging around a tree that has to weigh more than she does. And she doesn't even look bothered by this at all. It's not even a thing. She's just casually hauling this tree around. So I love this piece of art too. It's a great card effect, great art to go with it. I'm just generally a huge fan of Forever's Bloom. But what you got, Blackwood, if you have any cards that you want to shout out to that are prismatic actions or constants, let us know.
Shout away. Just don't steal mine.
But otherwise, what you got as your second?
Moment.
What'd you say?
What you got as your second, Manny? While
I will think
Blackwood's
on this a
thinking.
moment.
All right, well, I'll go up on my second one then. My second is a fan favorite of mine, my decks, and most people in general. There's an alternate art of this one too, but it doesn't matter which one we put up. It is the Hawkward turn. Hawkward turn's a 2-cost Sapphire Diamond, quick action, uncommon, revert and transform target card into a Hailhawk and Fate Weave. I mean, this card's just in here 100% because I love the Hailstorm deck, and this was probably like, this card was spoiled, and I was like, Hailstorm deck. So you finally got that removal you always needed. Just so good. I mean, it's made for that deck. I don't even know if they thought anything else. They were just like, oh, that deck needs removal. Maybe they didn't even know it was a deck, but it's really hard to believe that it fits so well. It turns something into a Hailhawk, which the whole deck just makes Hailhawks. The whole deck works off Fate Weaving, and the card Fate Weaves, because this card definitely didn't have to have Fate Weave on it. You could have a 2-cost transform an enemy thing into a Hailhawk, and it would still be fine. Yeah. And it's a small hawk inside of a suit of armor. You guys see that? Hilarious.
Yeah.
And watching Thrawn try to do math.
Yeah, trying to do math, run the board, get the cards up. I'm horrible. This was a bad idea to pick such a big number, because then I had to math who was second place.
King was definitely first. 211.
Here, maybe you can help. Maybe you can help me. Maybe you can help me math while I talk about a card.
All right, you talk about a card off.
Pick. I
Sorry,
put forth Twilight Eclipse, which has really great card art that's kind of understated but looks great.
Yeah,
And
let's talk about
pretty
the
potent,
true art
pull
here.
the deck together effect.
All right. So I have Twilight Eclipse up, and go ahead.
Definitely a fun effect to have on the board, especially if you're playing a constant deck, which is, of course, where this finds its home. I'm a sucker for having life drain on something that isn't a troop. I think that's kind of a fun mechanic, and this is probably some of my favorite card art in Hex. I would love to have a sleeve.
As much as I hate to say it, I'm pretty sure the other winner.
The other winner is who?
I'm pretty sure it's Stromwar with 150. He's only 66. The next closest person appears to be Palm at 327, but that's 119
It's over 100. Yeah.
away.
If you're within 100, you're probably then that should be it.
Yeah.
All right. So I'm gonna write down Strom and Tome King, and both of you, Strom and Tome King, I both need you to speak up and chat with what your in-game name is, because I have to take that down for tracking. And I will send out those codes at the conclusion of the stream. And so let's see here. For my second card is Mass Glaciation, and I always have to. Okay, Strom is Airtron. I knew that, but I do have to make you say it. And I wrote it down wrong. AIRTRON and TOMBKING. I'm just gonna send those out as in-game mail, so look for them. Look for your codes there. But on subject, Mass Glaciation is a 4-cost single sapphire, single diamond threshold card from our newest set, Doombringer. Transform 2 target troops into ice blocks. And an ice block is a 2-block constant. Basic, pay 5 to revert this. I love this card in limited, especially in draft. There's one draft where I got like 4 or 5 of these, and I jammed all of them in the deck. And my basic strategy was get to 4, put all of their things in ice, and just swing and win, because it's such a tempo kill to lock down multiple things in limited, and then for them to have to pay 5 to get a thing back, they're mostly giving up their entire turn to get one thing back. So it's such a great tempo card in limited, and the art I like the art too of two huge mammoths just perfectly like ice cubed up. It's kind of hilarious. So Mass Glaciation gets a 2 thumbs up for me as a limited card.
Want to know if we're gonna do enough of these shows that you eventually run out
You cut
the
out
dream,
run out of what?
run out of dust to extend cards.
That's not
Live on
gonna
stream.
that's not gonna happen. I don't promo
Uh,
things, so that's not gonna happen.
Card number 3, I suppose. I'm up.
Yep.
My third card is extrudicate. I can never pronounce it, but that's
Excruciate. This one.
excruciate. Thank you. That was excruciating to listen to. I'm sure. I hate words. Excruciate. Now that I can say it, is a 4-cost ruby sapphire, rare quick action. Draw 2 cards, then choose any number of cards. Right?
Yes.
Yes, choose any number of cards, discard them. Deal damage to target troop equal to the discarded card. The only downside to this card is that there has to be a troop on the board to target to play it. But other than that, you get to draw 2 cards for 4, which is good. And then if you have garbage can cards in hand or draw them, use them to potentially kill a troop. Or you can just pay 4 to draw 2, which isn't the best, but is certainly not terrible in certain situations. And it plays well with current thresholds that are doing draw card discardy things. It combos into lots of stuff in Doombringer, such as Candlegas, Scribe of the Flayed Man. It can target Annie, which is a big deal. So it's very playable.
Right.
I'm sure it's in at least, three decent ladder decks right now I can think of. It can even probably be slotted into more not so great decks, but I can think of 3 that usually want it in either main or definitely in the sideboard. Art on it isn't the best. This one was definitely chosen just for playability and kind of the cool stuff it does, letting you choose how many cards you can discard, and being able to take out an opposing troop with it.
All right. Before I go to my last one, Blackwood, do you have any other one you want me to pull up?
Raucous Revelry.
I think it starts that way. Yep. Oh, look, I have to extend this one too. All right. So tell us about Raucous Revelry.
Well, the art is adorable. You've got the berry bunch jamming out. And more importantly, taking all of your ready cards and all zones down to cost 1 really gets the party started at that point. You can do some pretty hilarious cascading effects with that, especially if you already have a lot that's already on the board by the time you hit that. The downside is you got to make sure that you have some things that aren't rowdy, that still have cost to bring the rowdy things into effect. Otherwise, you'll be spinning your wheels.
Yep.
Also, it's best not to think about the subtext of the berry bunch hanging out over a bottle of presumably berry bunch juice.
I mean,
I made a
little
joke.
hair of the dog. Anyone?
I made a joke about that as one of my pre-show countdowns for Dungeon Masters of Entrat. That little did they know they were drinking their kin.
Actually, what I like the most about the bottle is that, see the fist, I'm pretty sure it's just punch. Like berry punch.
Yeah, fruit punch.
Yeah, exactly. The label is a pun in and of itself. In which that case means I'm able to play it in our game. Oh, gotta put that one in my back pocket.
for the pun off. Is that a thing you guys are doing? Have you committed to a puns battle?
In our TSS bag of rules that we have on the back burner for weeks that people don't submit a rule, there is one where all cards have to be either a pun in the name or in the flavor text or in the art. There has to be a pun involved. So yes, we do have an all pun deck planned.
Nice.
For the future.
Well, this sounds like prime material for a Pappy deck.
It does.
And so my final card for cards of the week this week is I went back into the Immortal set and chose Rotten Rancor, which is a 5-cost, single blood, single wild, basic action from rare from Primal Dawn. And this is just great for reanimator decks. Put target troop from your crypt into play, and that troop battles target opposing troop. So you're bringing something back, and you have the opportunity to either trade up or just straight take something out and keep your own threat still on the board. Back in the glory days of, was it Kagulichu was the reanimator champ? If I'm remembering correctly, this card was huge for that back in Primal Dawn's heyday for reanimating things like Crocosaurs and other high-level threats to just blast a ton of things and create instant board advantage, and rewarded you for throwing things in the crypt so that you'd have something awesome to bring back. And who doesn't love a zombie dinosaur on your card art? I mean, come on.
Yeah, it's a good one.
And to that end, I would put up as a third card Assimilate.
Okay, I will grab that and then get back into the hex mode. Man, I have to extend art all the cards tonight. Here we go. All right. So tell us about Assimilate. I got the card up on screen here.
So that is some really gnarly removal, especially following the principle of that looks like a fun card, I want to play it. Being able to grab something off of the field, whether it's your card or something from your opponent, toss it into your deck and start making copies of it is good times.
So for our podcast audience here who can't see it on screen, Assimilate is a 4-cost rare from Doombringer. It's a quick action. Single diamond, single sapphire threshold. Put target opposing troop put target troop into your deck and gain its thresholds. So I guess you could target your own troop. It gets to play, create a copy of this and put it into your deck. So you could save something from death. You could steal an opponent's troop and get their thresholds. Lots of good uses for that.
I wonder if there's, gosh, that'd be such a slow combo. That made me think of playing, you could take a good threat, put it in your deck, then scour the archives for it, and then put another one in your deck, and then you could scour the archives for that one. But I don't know how you would get all the scour the archives in your hand. Really hard.
People are shouting out Cartomancy, which I have exactly 0 of.
Boom.
Because it does 1,000 things. Choose one at random, gain 20 health. Summon a random troop with 5 or more as its cost. Deal 10 damage to each opposing champion. Draw 3 cards or destroy each opposing troop. Like, you're not sad about any of those effects. Whatever you hit, you're happy about it.
And the beautiful thing about Cartomancy is that with the release of Ambrosia, there are some really silly turn 1 you can do.
And it can be yours for the low price.
Pretty sure the Wardens have up a nice, ridiculous Cartomancy FRA deck right now.
Yeah, you can buy the only one. You can buy the only one on the auction house for $17.50, folks. Thanks.
Yeah, it's not an easy card to get. I think I only have 2 of them.
I'll go without.
It's from.
That was
Is it from Frosting Arena?
I think
From the Frosting Arena.
I thought it was extremely rare chest loot.
Is it chest loot? It could be chest loot. That would explain why there's only 1.
Yeah. If it was a recurring source of drops, it wouldn't be a $17 card. Nothing.
Was it CA?
From Frostheart chests, Strom, thanks.
Yeah, it's from Wheels of Fate.
Wheels of Fate, yeah.
Oh, I only have 1. Yeah. It's a rare one.
So yeah, we've been
All right.
Believe it or not, our show's been running an hour 40, so I think we're in wind down mode here.
Yeah. You have nothing for Ask Thrawn and Manifesto, I believe.
Actually, I think we did have one. We did have a couple things that I thought were okay to talk about.
right.
I'm looking
Hey.
through. I'm looking through this thread again. 2018 Exalted program. Thoughts on possible candidates, assuming there's 3 like last time with similar categories.
Oh, for the
Who's getting the vanity card this year?
yeah. What were the 3 categories? I remember one was tech, and I would say that should go to Fred.
Yep, agreed on both recipient and category. The other ones were player, I think, which was nebulous on how you wanted to define that, and then the third was community.
Community. I mean, I might be biased, but I would say coach. I don't think he has one yet, and I know recently he has disappeared temporarily, but I know the personal reasons why, and they're very good reasons. But since the beginning of Hex, I think Coach Philbrown has both been a shining example of what a good community member should be, and he's put together the wardens, and he does a 12-hour stream once a month and gives away ridiculous amount of stuff. But yeah, so I would agree on Coach. As for player, present company aside, Mustache Magic is up there. It's hard. There's a lot of good players that I feel like could get it that aren't really. I feel like every time they pick one, it's someone who's like kind of like a streamer or something, because so you know who they are. But there's so many good players I think that would deserve it. That and one of them just spoke up. I was going to say Yasi, honestly, as my player, but it's weird that how Hex decides, because it seems like they pick people whose faces so you know if it's going to be like. Obviously, if you don't know what someone looks like and they release a card art, a vanity art, you don't know who that is. But so yeah, if I had to go non-streamer, I'd say Yasi, and if I had to go streamer, I'd probably say Mustache or Ali. We have no idea when this is actually happening, Yasi. It's not that time of year. This was just a question that got asked us on our Ask Manny and Thrawn forum thread.
I thought it happens like August. I'll be out of the country when it happens, is my prediction.
Yeah, like I said, Replay, I don't feel like that should be a factor. It's just when you're making a like other people don't know it's a vanity card, and it's just been how they've been doing it. Like if you look at all the people who've gotten it, they've all been like Neo.
Well, with their naming convention now. With their naming convention they've established now, going forward, if it's a troop that's exalted something, you can kind of probably assume it's a vanity card if you're clued in enough to realize that.
Yeah, that's true. Like now that they are putting the name, they could pick anyone. It's just I was just saying that's how it's been happening, and I don't see them changing that. Though I would like to see it, because obviously some of the best actual players are definitely not streamers, because one, they get to focus a lot more on the playing and not so much on any of the other stuff. But an exalted mustache would be hilarious. I agree.
That has to be the troop name.
Exalted mustache.
Yes.
I feel like that would have to lead to a PvE card. I don't think you'd like.
Well, it could be like a swashbuckler with an amazing mustache.
That's true. I mean, we do have Hawkward turn now in PvP, so I guess they can throw anything on that card they want.
Yeah,
like the Scarlet Pimpernel.
I think episode 1 of Topdeck Radio, I think I made some predictions on who'd get it this year. The 2 I'm going to stick with are our coach and Fred. I think I can comfortably say 2 for 3 and agree with you, Manny, on that score.
Yeah, I mean, if it's not Fred, I would be floored, to be honest. I can't think of anyone else except for maybe some of the people that do like either Battle Shopper or Hex Primal. But other than that, I can't think of anyone else who'd even be in the category. I mean, Vestris does the blog,
for sure.
But I mean, I don't know exactly what they apply as their tech thing. Does the blog count as tech stuff? I mean, it's on a computer, but it doesn't really like crunch numbers and spew out stuff. And I feel like that's what they're more looking for. That being said, Replay doesn't have one, right? I mean, Replay's work on the compendium is extensive and huge. So, I mean, Fred may not be a shoo-in, but he's probably the one that deserves it this time around, I can say.
Yeah, Strom, Fred didn't get one last year. Last year's tech was, I'm going to say the name wrong, was it Ram Chetty or something like that? It was the guy who does TCG browser and is responsible for keeping that site up and alive.
Which is probably like the two most used sites.
Right.
TCG browser and Hex PvP tool. Easily always open on my. I mean, they're open right now. I see the tabs right there.
Yeah. Yeah, they're the one. They're the one too. I think in terms of Hex sites. But then another question here. I'm going to skip the one on VIP because we talked about VIP earlier. Streaming card games. How do other card games do it successfully? Why is streaming Hex non-existent? Not counting the player base numbers. Is it even possible to fix that? So I think he's saying, not using the player base numbers as an excuse. Why isn't streaming Hex taking off?
I mean, I feel like you hit the nail. That's the answer. The answer is player base. You can only support every game streamed. There's only as many streamers as there are viewers to support them. There's only a small fraction of total game players that are Twitch viewers. So you just extrapolate that out. Like, that's just, I feel like that's just how it is. Like, a streamer can only stream to, a handful of people for so long without going. Hex doesn't have enough viewers to really let multiple streamers gain any traction. And there's your answer.
Yeah, I think
unless you guys think there's a different reason. But, there's nothing... there's no difference streaming XXX other TCG games. Like, it's the same concept. You're playing a TCG, you're talking to chat, you can have different personalities. There's the super hardcore PvPers that you go to watch to learn how to play the game and be better on the ladder. There's the people you go to watch for their personality. There's the people you go to watch because they're goofy. There's the people that you watch because they live in a dark pit near the corners of hell they're crazy and they have a bunch of black stuff and listen to heavy metal music. Like, there's different strokes for people, but if there's not enough people to get enough streamers, they don't stream. And that's just what happens.
Yeah, it's population's number one, in getting eyeballs. I think that's vastly number one. 2 is the number of streamers. If you pull up a game and you only see like one person streaming it's less appealing to jump into. And then I think 3 is personality. I think a lot of the big eyeball generators, that would bring eyes to Hex, they're playing other TCGs because that's where the viewer base is. They're not jumping in here. And when they do jump in here, their viewership tends to largely not follow. It's go back to playing X other game that I wanted, to watch you play. And, we don't have, I love you, Manny, but the two of us don't have the raw animal magnetism to do this ourselves and bring in all the people. I know I don't. I had a thought piggybacking off of that and I lost it. Oh, I would say though that I think the one thing Hex is doing well, which unfortunately has not been helping it enough, is how many other of those card games out there commit to daily content off of their own official channel. Like, Hex's official channel lineup's in a slump right now. It's kind of a shadow of its former self, but still they have a commitment to trying to provide daily content for folks, which I don't know that most or any of those other card games do. So if Hex ever did get its feet under it, then a daily lineup like this would serve them well. Hopefully in that future state where we can look back on these days and laugh that we survived it.
Tomb King asked, how can we improve that? And I don't know.
Positivity. I can only speak for myself, but when I go into somebody's stream and they're just talking doom and gloom or being salty and being negative, this sucks, this company doesn't know what they're doing, meh, meh, meh. You know, I play video games to hang out. I watch a stream to try to hang out and have some fun. And if somebody is just going to be a big negative salt bag, that is the fastest way to get me out of your channel. So if you want, you want more people tuning into Hex streams, and if you as a streamer want to build your own following, be engaging, be fun, chat. Don't any negativity that you're feeling and unhappiness, I would really encourage you not to vent that on stream. Find a buddy that you can talk to in private to vent your grief if you need to vent your issues, but don't make that a public display for the whole internet. That's my and this soapbox has been brought to you by
yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's hard to answer that question because we're streamers and we like to think we're doing a good job, and the reason that we don't have more is just because that the game doesn't have more followers. Though there's always that reason that it could just be us. Maybe the right people to stream Hex haven't come along yet, and I mean that's a complete possibility. As much as I wouldn't like to admit that.
But yeah, that's all I got. Any thoughts on that subject, Blackwood?
Well, as soon as one of us gets Drake to come and play Merry Melee with us.
Yeah, hey buddy, put down that Fortnite it was Fortnite. Got this Hex game.
Yeah.
TCG, that's all the rage. I'll throw you some boosters.
How many cookies can I bake and send Ninja before he comes and plays Hex with me? Because I'll start baking cookies.
The sad state of humanity is how many subs would he lose for playing any other game for just one night?
He'd make them
that was
day.
quite a tremendous drop.
It would be fine. I mean, that drop was inevitable. That perfect storm of Amazon launch, the Twitch Prime free subs and everything was just crazy. Like, those numbers were ridiculous. There was no way he was ever going to have 100% retention. As amazing as he is, too good to be true. Any others on the forum? Because it is 9:57.
And I agree with Havoc. The problem is the negativity is easily fixed. People just want actual communication. Which, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe on at least 50% of our episodes, I've called Hex out for exactly that thing. Thrawn complains about Hex communication is almost a cliche at this point. I think if we were to make a Hex drinking game, me complaining about Hex communication would need to be one of the squares. But bold takes or bold predictions or hot takes. Any final exciting thoughts you want to drop on us this week?
I meant to add in that my bold prediction went in tied in with my speculation of the Enders being defeated. But what I have written down here for my bold prediction is the all dragons getting reprinted with the different card text and defeating the Enders. That's what's actually written down here on our show notes. It also says check for pitchforks and torches because spoiler season didn't start, and I said there'd be pitchforks and torches, which actually hasn't been that bad. I thought there'd be a lot more pitchforks and torches.
Now
There was one in Discord, but I blew his torch out and I took his pitchfork and shoved it. So
this was the week I predicted spoiler season would start. So ask me again on Monday if we haven't seen anything, but I think it's going to be Wednesday or Thursday.
Drumwar says that my prediction of Siege dying off is starting to come to fruition lately, which I would agree. I've already saw last night, I saw 4 Sieges at 500 sacks just sitting there. Not to say that they are unbeatable, and this is going to sound like a gloat, but I beat one of them, so they weren't impossible to beat. I took who was it? The main event. I took the main event Siege down last night for 500 sacks. So
I like Nero's comment. In before set 10 has a robot called Communications. I challenge you, Nero, to make that an actual fully functioning acronym, just because I want to see that.
Biznatch said he wouldn't touch a 500 sack, and I normally don't, but it actually wasn't that expensive. It was only like under to attack still, which is usually my problem. Isn't siege sacks? It's usually gold cost, and most of the 500 sacks are like upwards of 60 to 80,000 gold to attack, and I can't afford to risk that much. Yes, Ravnok, I know what you're talking about too, and I boot. Gonna write at him as well. What's up?
And
Don't mess with the Manny. The Manny will mess back.
Blackwood, you got any knowledge you want to drop on us tonight? Any bold predictions, hot takes you want to get on the record so a few weeks from now you can look super smart?
I do think we're probably going to see set 10 spoilers coming in the relatively near future. I think that the timing is there, and there have been some tit for tat on the forums with people talking about NDAs and things, but I think that it would be very surprising if we weren't on the cusp of that coming in. The question will be if that is couched with another kind of feature release or revision. I would like to hope that maybe set 10 also coincides with another revamp to Siege. Presumably that will also have another content drop for the Frost Ring Arena, for better or worse. Since some people didn't really like the last revision to it. But they did have that, at least originally pitched as a concurrent running thing where, as we went through this block of stuff going on with the arena, that we would have corresponding updates in there. Ideally, I'd love to see them bring in smart drops to that, so that the people that have 47 copies of some of the initial arena loot and are still missing things 500 runs later, who I certainly don't know anyone like that, would finally start running at that collection and be able to move on to some other stuff there.
I'm all for them bringing smart drops everywhere. Frost Ring Arena, chests, especially chests.
Chikish asked what smart drop is, and that's like how the packs they work. Once you get 4 of a card, or once you already get a piece of it, you don't get it again. It takes it out of the pool of items you're able to get. I just want it in Frost Ring Arena. I mean, the most. Like,
I would definitely like to see that in chests as well, and the Wheel of Fate.
Chests would be fine too, but so many common PvE equipments. It's not even funny. I wish I could just give them away. I almost wish I have so many I don't even have time to do and delete them. Like, that's how many there are.
And then lastly, I do hope that we get an update to the auction hall with the set 10 drop, just at least to fulfill the parity that they were originally looking for with the PS4 version and some of those quality of life changes.
Yeah, that would be nice.
Bring the interface over.
They don't even need to bring the whole interface over. They just need to bring the one where you double and it shows you what the lowest one is up for currently, and then just has a button to say list it for that price as well, or list it for 2% less or whatever. I don't know. But I don't know what the PlayStation one does because I've never used it, but I saw someone on a video do it, and they can just click a card. It tells them what the current lowest price is, and then they just have a button there to list it. And I'm like, yes, please. I want that.
The way your audio dropped out for bits and pieces, that people are going to think you said something absolutely filthy and that I was censoring you, and it's going to sound hilarious in post-production.
Yeah, I feel like Discord's gotten worse as it's gone on. There's still no better option. I check every once in a while. We're using the best we can, minus all actually being in the same room with mics actually hardwired into the system.
Sure, but shameless plugs, because we're at 2 hours and I want to be done because I've got at least half an hour to 40 minutes of post-production ahead of me. Blackwood, where can people find more of you?
Well, I am on Twitter at Blackwood TCG. I'm on Twitch at Blackwood TCG. You can find me in game. It's just Blackwood. Once again, extend the invitation to anybody who wants to have a fun siege for prestige and prizes. Look for the Blackwood Keep in Siege. For the foreseeable future, that's going to continue being puzzle decks, theme decks, that sort of thing. There's a generously sticky post in the forums as well as on Reddit now that have the deets for that, as well as the spreadsheet that has all the stuff. Would love to see more people giving it a shot. Lots of prizes, lots of things for free. Generally fun times.
Yep, I dropped that spreadsheet link in chat again for folks. Pull that up, add that to any list of bookmarks that you keep for Hex-related sites. Definitely worth it to refer back to. Especially that way you don't have to find it every time. You can just pull it up. Manny, any shameless plugs you want to drop?
Oh, what's up, guys? You know me, your favorite friendly neighborhood Hex Manifesto, the only one. You can find me here on Fridays with Marty Punker for our Sworn Showdown. This week we'll be doing Exacxies. That is that we have to murder each other with exactly 0 life left, exactly cards left in the deck. If we overkill, we do not win. So that should be interesting. Haven't even thought about what I'm going to build for that yet. That's going to be our first project. Other than that, you can find me on my own channel, twitch.tv/hex_manifesto, or follow the link in chat now. You can give that a follow. I stream almost every day except for Wednesday because that's D&D night. And be back here next Monday with this lovely guy over here, because that's how we do.
Nice. See, I've pretty much given up streaming on my own channel for the summer. I think 2 days is enough for me. But you will find me here, same bat time, same bat channel, Tuesday night, 5 p.m. Pacific, Dungeon Masters of Entrath. I have 5 different formats people can play me in. Win some games, walk away with some prizes. There's no entry fee, just show up and throw down and fight me. I do have some draft and evo codes tucked away against the potential prizes, so the overall amount of prize support I've thrown into this, I have buffed it. So stop on by, have some fun, engage in some kitchen table shenanigans with me, and maybe get some swag for your trouble. But on that note, I'm going to sign us off here. Thanks everybody for hanging out, and good luck with your Hex games this week. Hopefully we have some exciting new stuff to talk about next week. Thank you, Blackwood, again for joining us as a guest. Love to have some extra voices in as part of the show. So we'll catch y'all next week.